That we even have to talk about this or say this is a pretty sad commentary on the state of our country and our politics and our culture. But we do have to review some of the things that are going on with regard to the memorial service for Jimmy Carter. Um, Donald Trump is there and Melania. And by the way, she looks like crap. I don't care how rude that is to say it, but I've been getting all these texts from people say, boy, she looks bad. So maybe just because we haven't seen her much over the past 4 years since he wasn't in office, and she's aged like we all do. And we're just, a little bit shocked by it. You don't have the special lighting. But anyway, that's beside the point. And petty, but hey, in the era of Trump, that's what we do, right? Speaking of, we have people on the right, Fox News, and it's on Drudge Report, claiming that at the service, President Joe Biden fell asleep. That is a lie. He did not fall asleep. They showed footage of him with his eyes closed. Well, the others around him also had their eyes closed in the moment. It was one of those moments in a service where that's what people do for prayer, reflection. So he and others had their eyes closed and their heads bowed a little bit, like people do in church, like they do in memorial services, like they do in prayer. But this is what these idiots are saying about our president. We did see that when others had their hand over their heart for, I don't know if it was the pledge or for the national anthem, I can't remember which, Donald Trump was the only one who didn't. Former President Barack Obama did, Biden, Pence, Kamala Harris, their spouses, the Bushes, everybody except Donald Trump. He knew it. He just wouldn't do it. They also had him seated at the far end because nobody wanted to talk to him. Now, President Obama sat next to him and seemed to be cordial and maybe laughing it up a little bit too much. We had people wondering what was going on there. But did you notice that former President Bush and his wife, they walked right by both of the Trumps. He gave Barack Obama a pat, a friendly pat, as he walked by, but he didn't acknowledge the Trumps. I say good for him. Good for him. This is okay. And he's always been somebody who's been very polite. So this would seem out of character, but he finally did something. Now, he very well could have and should have spoken out strongly against Trump during the election. He should have endorsed Kamala Harris, especially when he saw what Trump was doing to the daughter of Bush's vice president, Cheney. That would have been a time to step forward and show some leadership. He did not. He did not. And I think that he will regret that for the rest of his life. And that will be a bigger regret than if he had done something and, some MAGA folks attacked him for being rude or whatever. So what? MAGA are Nazis. They are horrible people. Maybe in 2016, we could excuse them. Some of them didn't know what they were doing. They didn't have all the information in 2020. I don't know about that. But in 2024, they knew. But we know that Trump is even ignoring some of his promises to them. And he's doing things that they didn't sign off on, that they didn't vote for. But they're all going to fall in line because they're so far down the rabbit hole with him, digging that hole to hell, that they don't know how to climb out. So using military force and invading Greenland to simply take them over. A NATO ally, they are part of Denmark, a NATO ally. Same with Panama. Economic warfare against Canada. I mean, this is just not what Americans do. It's not what America does. It's what Russia does under Vladimir Putin. It's what Hitler did, trying to expand German territory. And this is what Trump is doing. So yes, all of the comparisons to Hitler were on target. Former President George W. Bush maybe finally has figured that out. There's no doubt now. He may also not have wanted to get into the fray because his daughter is on TV and her career is growing. As that happens with Nepo babies on TV, they're on both sides, Republican and Democrat. And he may not have wanted to do anything that would impact her ability to move forward. And she just got an hour of her morning show. She's got her own gig going. She's growing. She's thriving in her career. But I think the stakes were too big, and he should have stepped up. That said, seeing him at Jimmy Carter's funeral and have him walk by and ignore a fellow Republican, former president and future president, Donald Trump, was delightful. Can't blame this on Democrats. And then the former second lady, married to Trump's first vice president, Karen Pence, did the same. Ignored Donald Trump and did not shake his hand. Mike Pence did. Shouldn't have. Again, another one who eventually came out and did the right thing, kind of, sort of, but could have and should have done a lot more, a lot sooner. Had the potential and the power to have huge impact. But everybody kind of, they wanted somebody else to do it. I know when I stood up to Trump and people privately were patting me on the back and supporting me, but publicly, nobody was really stepping up to help me, because they didn't, when Trump is pounding away at someone, people want to step aside. They don't want to get blood splattered on them. They feel for you, but they're okay with letting it happen. And remember, all the stuff that Trump is doing now, he did to me initially. So none of this surprises me. But again, MAGA is now finding out the hard way. This is the F around, find out phase. Now they're in the find out part of the program. Many of them are blindly going to follow him into this whole invasion of Greenland and Panama. But here's the thing. If you have a son or daughter in the military, and they would be engaged in something that puts their lives at risk because we want to expand the territory so that the oligarch tech bros can start a new country, and Vladimir Putin can get his hands on the natural resources, the elements, that's what they're doing here. They're just going to go take it. They're not doing it for America. They're doing it for themselves. We no longer have capitalism. We have an oligarchy. We're not on our way to it. For the last few years, I and others have been saying we're on our way to an oligarchy. We are there. We also no longer have free and fair elections. We don't have a democracy. We don't have freedom of the press. We are not the greatest country in the history of the world. We have been up until the era of Trump. And we just we're not giving credit to Joe Biden for being literally the best president in our lifetimes, because his major screw up was keeping Merrick Garland. Now, Merrick Garland is going to be releasing the Jack Smith report on some of the election shenanigans that Trump was doing, but we're not going to be getting anything on the stolen documents, because Eileen Cannon is sitting on that with her big fat butt, her big fat MAGA butt. So, there's some good news. Some of it's too little, too late. But again, back to the Carter stuff. I liked seeing President George W. Bush walk right by both of the Trumps. He didn't even do that thing where you're nice to the spouse and walk by the husband, because he knows that Melania is guilty as well. She supports all of this. And she's basically a hired hand. And she probably was a person that Putin installed a long time ago to be Trump's handler. And now they need somebody a little more robust. And that's what Elon Musk is there for. But sad day in America, obviously, to bury the beloved Jimmy Carter. But to see our former presidents and vice presidents and spouses sitting there together, representing the best of America, how we used to be until Trump, and to know that it's all over, to see that divide, to know that that one sitting in that pew doesn't belong there. One of these things is not like the other one. One of these things just doesn't belong. That would be the Trumps sitting at the edge of the pew. They don't belong. They don't belong there. They never have. But here we are. Here we are. I think it would be useful, again, too little, too late, but still of value, if President George W. Bush would start making public statements and being more forceful. Just to do it. If nothing else, give a little bit of cover to Republicans in Congress who know that they are the last stop, the last speed bump for Trump. And we've seen some of them kind of stand up to him. But a former Republican president to be more forceful and direct and public about this would give cover and comfort and aid to Republicans in Congress who want to do the right thing, to the senators who know that they simply cannot confirm a Pete Hegseth or a Tulsi Gabbard or an RFK Jr. To House members, remember 170 of them defied Trump on the debt limit. They may want to defy him on some other things, and they need help. I know they're there. We know privately. I've had private conversations with, establishment Republicans. Nobody wanted this. And again, as we've talked about before, or as I've talked about here on this YouTube channel, we know that a lot of these Republicans were glad to be rid of Trump. They thought they were rid of him 4 years ago. And immediately after January 6th, prominent Republicans almost rushing to the microphone to make sure that they were on record condemning him and blaming Trump for the attack on our Capitol, for the insurrection, for instigating it. And this was even before we knew about the stolen documents. And this is before we knew before he was even impeached, before bribing, blackmailing Zelensky, saying, find me dirt on Biden or invent dirt on Biden so that I can defeat him in the election. I mean, this is before we knew this stuff. This is before find me 11,000 votes. This is before all of this stuff. But they still knew what he was. They still knew that he was dangerous. They still knew that he had damaged this country. They know he had damaged the Republican Party. So from Mitch McConnell to Rubio to Cruz even, Lindsey Graham, Elise Stefanik, all of them stepping up, blaming Trump. And remember, Kevin McCarthy on January 6th was not calling anyone to call off the terrorists, the domestic MAGA terrorists. He wasn't calling anyone but Trump because he knew that they were there because he told them to be there and that his people had organized this, that they were meeting at hotels the night before. All of these are very good reasons to separate yourself from Trump. Now they scrambled back since then because Merrick Garland didn't do anything, didn't do enough, didn't do anything of consequence with Trump with regard to January 6th. And Trump was able to run again. So they get scared and they start groveling back to Trump. I do think there are some patriots, or at least somebody with a patriotic cell in their body in Congress with an R after their name. But they need a boost. So George H.W. Bush, good move, walking right by the Trumps and not acknowledging them at the Carter funeral. Thank you, Karen Pence. Thank you, Karen Pence. Thank you, Mother, for doing the same. But it's going to take more than that. I hope in the coming months and years, the former Republican president, George W. Bush, I hope he will step up more. I hope he'll be vocal. You know what? There's nothing to lose. What has he got to lose? Is it a social life in Texas that he doesn't want to screw up? Highfalutin friends that give a lot of gifts to Clarence Thomas? Oops, could that be it? Is that worth it? You can't ignore the reality here. I think that he and others who kind of kept their mouths shut thought, well, voters are going to take care of this. Everybody thinks somebody else is going to take care of it. Well, guys, now it's up to you. So I hope and I pray and I urge you, President Bush, please, please be that voice. I think it can still make a difference. We're in uncharted territory. We don't know what's ahead of us. But your voice, not a little bit, not just here and there, Take a stand. Be as brave as your vice president's daughter, as Adam Kinzinger, too. Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, Adam Schiff. Be as brave as them. And frankly, if you don't mind me saying so, as brave as I've been, and a few other people who don't have the protections in their life built in, baked in. And we went out there anyway, fighting this monster. We need you to do it, President Bush. Not doing it, you may have thought, well, I got away with not doing anything during the election, so I can continue to get away with doing nothing for the rest of my life. No, you can't. And we're gonna call on you. Love that you did that today. I hope it's just the start. I hope it's not the whole of your resistance, because we need you.